Save us trouble. Who are you going to draft, Rick?
Yeah. You know, we do this every year. It's mandatory, and every year I give you guys the same answers. You ask the same questions. You know, we could just go ditto from a year ago or 2 years ago.
Is this year and last year, maybe last couple of years, are quarterbacks rated higher on your draft board overall than maybe they were 5, 8 years ago?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't say that. I think, you know, look, we build our draft board based upon, you know, the evaluations that our scouts and coaches do, and then, you know, obviously there's an adjustment that we make, you know, so that we can put them in a position where we can get them if we want them. But, you know, that's built upon, you know, those evaluations and relative to the rest of the class. So I wouldn't say that they're higher or lower than they've you know, than they've been. There's been no adjustment for, you know, an implied value, I guess.
Mickey, we know what the goal is, but do you feel like free agency sets you up in a position as to where you can draft the best available?
Well, I think we're going to do that regardless, but I would say, you know, there's some things that we still have to accomplish that we didn't get accomplished in free agency. That doesn't mean that we have to get that done in the draft. There's time afterwards before the training camp gets started, but I think we're still, you know, in a good position.
When you guys say take the best player, is that just really the best player regardless of the position, or is there a need element involved in that?
Well, I've said this before. What happens is, you know, it's never just one guy sitting up there and everybody else is gone. You know, you have a group of players that are all graded pretty closely together when you pick, more often than not. And look, certainly position comes into play, you know, when you make that pick, when you have a group of guys that are close together. And it may be it's a position of need for your team, but it also may be that position is more valuable, you know, than another one.
Mickey said there's still some needs that you need to fill. What would you think of that?
Yeah, I'd rather keep those to myself. I don't want to give you guys any indication of. You can all guess that. Look, you know, I know Sean talked about, you know, our needs and some things yesterday, and I think he named every position, right? That's what I would do.
Mickey, when you have that group of players, is there a lot of emphasis on how this player will fit?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, our evaluations, you know, they start with what are the skills? You know, what's the makeup of the player in terms of character and football intelligence and all those other things. And then it's also, hey, what's our vision for that player for the New Orleans Saints? And so all those things come into play when, you know, before we draft.
Maybe not having a second-round pick and picking 27, are you more likely to be proactive in trading down just because you only have like one pick in the first 90 picks to try and supplement that a little bit?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that because, look, there may be a target on someone that we have going forward that hey, if we can get this one guy, then that's worth giving up, you know, some of our other assets. So I think we're open to either, although historically I think we've done a lot more trading up than we have trading back. I recognize that.
Mickey, I know, you know, across the league, it's evolved and the scouting goes, but you and your tenure and Sean, y'all have uncovered, you know, Jari Evans and the guys from the small schools. Why is that? Why have the Saints had so much success with the small school guys?
Well, I think it starts with our coaching staff and the philosophy of our coaches, and Sean in particular, is that, look, he didn't care how a player gets here. We're going to play the best players. And so I think that gives our scouts, our pro guys, our college guys, our coaches, it gives them incentive to, you know, dig for guys that they like that, you know, may be acquired in an unconventional manner. And so, look, we've had success, you know, with some of those guys. Lots of teams have had success, you know, in later rounds and and free agents, et cetera. And so I think that's the important element here is that, look, once we get them, we don't care how they got here. Our coaches are going to coach them hard, and we're going to play the best players.
Do you ever open a draft thinking you want to trade, or does that just come up as the round goes along?
Oh yeah, I think listen, we're thinking about trades, a month ago. Thinking about opportunities, I would say, whether that's trading up or trading down or player for player. We're always thinking about opportunities to improve our roster and get guys in that fit what we want to do, and that changes. It changes based upon who might be available or who you might have signed in free agency or who you think might become available in the draft. Where you're picking. It's a lot more difficult when you're at 27 as opposed to being in the top 10 or 11th or some of the places we've been the previous few years.
Mickey, what jumps out in terms of just depth? Just the particular position, what sort of jumps out at you in this class in terms of depth?
That's a good question. I think it's pretty evenly spread across the board. I don't think there's anything atypical here. That's my first impression, or my current impression is that I wouldn't say that there's one position or two positions that are really, really deep, and so relative to other years.
We all know that the defensive end has been long-term need for you guys. How do you go this time of the year, about determining what someone like Muhammad or Trey Hendrickson might be able to do this upcoming season?
Well, we've seen some evidence. We have them in practice. We have opinions, and obviously we have a better feel for what they can or can't do than we did a year ago, and yet, there's going to be some growth. There's always a lot of growth between, your first year and your second year, and, even the third year. So I think we're encouraged by what we've seen by those players, and yet I don't know that there's any certainty.
There's been a lot of chatter. There's less guys with true first-round grades this year. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, I don't think we would say that. I don't think we would say that.
What has Jeff Ireland brought to the room, and how has he kind of blended in with the group that was already there?
Well, he's been here for 3 years or 4 years now, so it's look, Jeff's awesome, and he's done a great job for us, and he's taken some things that we've done, in our system and added to it. He's brought some new things to us. I think he's really good at making sure our scouts understand exactly what our coaches are looking for. I think he's really good at understanding that each player's skills, that's not the end of the evaluation. It's, hey, they've got a skill set, and what's the vision for that skill set with our team based upon, what our coaches are looking for. And so I think the main thing here, besides the evaluation part of it itself, is being able to have a vision for each player and what he can bring to our team. And I think, look, that is one of the reasons why a year ago we had so many guys contribute to our team as young players, is that, man, we had a clear vision for each one of them, and that comes from Sean and gets communicated, through Jeff to our scouts and part of our decision-making process.
How much of this is luck?
The what?
How much of this is luck?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely some of that.
Can you, reference a previous time where you wanted a certain player and you wound up with somebody else, and maybe it just turned out to be a better thing?
Well, I think you just look a year ago. We did I don't know how many mock drafts we did before the actual draft last year, but not one of them did we have Marcus Lattimore come to us. So, I don't want to say luck. That's probably not the right word, but he fell to our spot, and it was pretty clear cut. Hey, this is the guy we've got to take, and want to take, And so if you want to call that luck, that's you know, that's what it is, I guess, when someone falls to you that you don't expect. But there's lots of examples of that, Ed, over the years. You've called me on the carpet here, and they're not coming right to mind, but I know that there's been lots of examples. Will Smith was one, years ago that, man, not in any of the mock drafts that we had that year did Will Smith, end up at our pick, and yet there he was. And I don't recall, I remember that year, but I also remember that defensive end wasn't a position that we felt like, hey, we needed coming into that draft in the first round, and yet there he was. Man, we had to take him, and it was a great pick. A great pick for us, and he had a great career for, with us.
So kind of piggybacking on that, if there was one of those guys who you had rated so.
Yeah, we take him.
Superior fashion, even at not a need position.
Yeah, we take him. Yeah, absolutely, we take him.
And figure it out later.
And figure it out, right. Look, Jeff says this a lot. He says sometimes, it's not a bad thing to build on a strength, add to a strength. And, we agree with that.
What's your thoughts on the Pelicans? How their postseason run's going?
Well, look, I think I'm just like everyone else in the city. We're excited about it, right? Impressed with the job that Alvin and Dell have done, given some adversity during the season, and looking forward to more.
What's the fascination with Ohio State? I love being Ohio State guy.
Yeah. Well, look, first of all, they've got a lot of good players, right, every year, and it's coincidence that we've taken a lot of their players. It's not something that we target every year, but look, there's a lot of schools that have a lot of good players, and again, it comes back to, hey, how does the draft fall? We've had success with the Ohio State guys all the way back to Will Smith, so they've got good players. They're well coached. They love football. They practice hard. All those things. So
Conversely, what do you have against LSU?
we don't have anything against LSU. You guys ask me that every year. Yeah, look, they've had a lot of players at LSU that we've liked, and conversely, they haven't have been available to us when we like to pick them. So they do a good job, at LSU identifying talent and putting guys in the league. And look, we hate playing against them. We'd like to have more LSU guys.
Just to point out the Ohio State guys where if you take one, you think they might have a better chance to thrive because they already know some people there?
No, I wouldn't say that. Although, look, we get information from our current guys about players that are playing at OSU. So, we do have a little, access to some information that may help us.
When you guys are as close as you were last year, does that change the view of the draft at all, the short term and the long term?
Say that again?
When you guys were as close as you were coming into this draft now, like the success you had last year, does it change the short term or long term view of the draft at all? Like, do you feel like you need to get guys that can help right now, or does it give you the latitude to maybe?
No, I don't think I wouldn't say that that's a big variable at all. It may be something small, but I wouldn't say that that's. I think our approach is the same. Look, we're looking for players that we have a vision for that can help us both in the short term and the long term. We're looking for the best players we can get for the Saints, and I wouldn't say that that's a big consideration. Look, the impact is that we're picking later, but I wouldn't say anything else is different.
How hard is it to have a draft where, last year hadn't happened in the league in 50 years when you had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year on the same team. Every time you do this, do you go back and even appreciate more what happened last year? Because you've had some really good drafts,
Yeah.
but that one was off the charts.
Well, we've had some poor drafts too. I'm well aware of that. Well, look, first of all, we had 5 picks in the first, 3 rounds last year, so we don't have that opportunity this year. We've got 2, and we're picking later, and so the opportunity is different. I certainly appreciate how big an impact that class had a year ago, and yet I also would say this, that's 1 year. Let's not anoint that class as, a big group of Hall of Famers or anything like that. They've had one good season, and it's a good season that we can build on, and we're excited about them. But I wouldn't say that, that class is a finished product yet. It shouldn't and doesn't impact on how we approach this year's draft, at all.
When you guys are discussing a trade, how much do those trade value charts come into play?
Well, everyone has them, and I think everyone uses that. Most everyone uses those charts as a guideline. But look, we pay attention to what's happened historically. So at every pick, I've looked at trades that are similar. Going from 27 to whatever. 1. Hey, has that happened before? What was the cost? Then you look at, okay, what are the other trades where you've moved up 26 spots? And so we look at history. We look at the point value charts. There's several different ones, so you kind of have to understand, what chart the other team's using. And then, look, it's still a marketplace that two people have to say yes to, so it's a negotiation.
Has the chart you use changed over the years?
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
So
But-
in your evaluation, is there a big difference at the bottom of round 1 and the top of round 2? Or is it pretty close together? Or-
Yeah, that's not that far apart. You mean in terms of the value of the points and all that?
On your board, if you
No, I wouldn't say that there's a big difference. Look, it's pick 32 and pick 33, so you really have to, order them that way in terms of the player. Now, there's a contract difference that creates, you have 5 years available to you in the first round and 4 in the next.
in the top of round 2 equal to a guy at 27, would it be in your best interest to try to maybe trade down and pick up another pick?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It just, that's so specific to who's, to the player available. And then that's when position may come into play too. Look, we might get an equivalent player, but it might be at a position that is less valuable to you.
How has your draft value chart changed over the years? Is there more weight towards the middle rounds, more weight up top?
Well, I think the first significant change happened when we got a rookie system and changed the contract amounts that you're paying at the top of the draft. That shifted it a little bit. Otherwise, relatively, I wouldn't say it's changed significantly. It's changed, but I wouldn't say that it's changed significantly since then. Just there's these little tweaks every year that happen.
Mickey, can you put a guess on how many trades, whether up or back, get discussed but don't actually come to fruition?
Yeah, well, geez, that's a good question. 10 times as many as actually happen? I don't know. Look, we'll talk with. Listen, we'll have a conversation with virtually every team in front of us, and 15 teams behind us at some point. Now that's a conversation. That's not necessarily something that is likely to happen. But we'll have a lot of conversations. Every team will. They want to understand what the dynamic is. Who's looking to come forward, who's looking to move back. So, those conversations are happening now.
Do you anticipate the ability to trade comp picks changing the dynamic at all?
Well, since we rarely get a comp pick, I don't pay a lot of attention to it. It's changed some. Look, it's made those comp picks more valuable, I think, at the end of the day. That's what it's done. And given the teams that get them, more assets. So, yeah, I don't know how to answer that really. They're more valuable just by virtue of the fact that they're available to trade.
Sean has talked about the need for a pressure player. Obviously, that would make us
Yeah.
defensive end, but I mean, how much do you think you can maybe potentially find an interior lineman, a linebacker, DB that can help you pick the quarterback?
Yeah, and I think we'll see. There's a number of players that you know, we would identify as pressure players in this draft, and you know, we'll see if we have opportunity to draft them. But I also think this, I think every team, all 32 teams would say they desire a pressure player. You know, they impact the game, and so all of us are looking for those players.
But it's not just an edge player, right?
You know, you can get pressure from the interior just as well as you can get it from an outside player.
How difficult was the decision to let Willie go to the Ravens, and
Yeah.
comment on how a player's dissension in terms of productivity can happen like that at his age? Do you expect him to come?
No, look, Willie's a good player and did a lot of good things for us, and so it's just, you know, decision about how we're allocating resources at the end of the day. But look, he'll do well. You know, I can't say enough good things about Willie Snead. And you know, last season there's some things happened that was a little bit unfortunate that you know, impacted his season. But look, he'll bounce back. He'll have a great season.
Have you thought at all about what those 3 days would be like, not having Mr. Benson in the building, and who's generally engaged?
Yep, absolutely. I've tried not to think about that. Look, you know, we miss him in you know, on a daily basis, and you know, the success of the Pelicans, you know, his excitement level would have been, you know, off the charts, and having a horse in the Kentucky Derby and all these good things that have happened in the last few weeks, man, he would have enjoyed all of that so much. And I think, you know, he gets his greatest enjoyment by seeing how the city reacts to those kinds of things. And so he'll be missed. We'll have an empty chair for him, and we'll be thinking about him for sure.
Thank you, Mickey.
Mm-hmm.